Welcome everybody. Welcome to Dr. Kalam IAS Academy. Today I'll be walking through some of the important aspects of polity and governance. This is C. Raghuram with you. This is a brief about me. I take this opportunity to inform you our new batches of IAS 2021. Very solid, excellent batches. A online batch is starting from June 5th. For the first 50 students, you have an amazing offer of 10,000 rupees. The original price is 40,000. I repeat, for the first 50 members, you have got just to pay 10,000 rupees. Next, our offline course based on the government rules and regulations or the further announcement, tentatively we have decided to start our class from July 1st. The original price is 90, but for first 50 students, we are offering this at 50,000 rupees. Dear students, this is an amazing offer. Please don't miss. This is the first time in India such a low price and a quality coaching, which is having prelims, mains, interview, all the aspects, regular test, individual guidance, everything. The admissions are in progress. Please don't miss this opportunity. Let's proceed with the discussion of our polity and governance. Polity and governance is a very important topic of UPSC civil service examination. So in this session, I will be discussing about the syllabus, prelims, mains, the previous year question papers, the trends in prelims and mains, the reference books which you have to refer. Coming to the reference book, I want to make one thing clear. The material provided at Kalam IAS Academy is more than sufficient. There is no need for you to refer any other book. Even then, for your information, we'll be telling the reference book from where we will be teaching you and which you may, if you want, refer to them. So coming to the syllabus, the first one, syllabus of UPSC Civil Service Polity and Governance. Here you have got polity and governance in preliminary examination in paper 1 and also mains examination in paper 3, or it is also called as GS3. Preliminary examination syllabus with respect to polity and governance is titled as Indian Polity and Governance. This section consists of the five important topics or five important areas: constitution, political system, panchayat raj, public policy, rights issues. Coming to the mains, it is titled as governance, constitution, polity, social justice, and international relations. In this section, we will be dealing these four: governance, constitution, polity, social justice things. International relations will be dealt in another video series. This is your main syllabus. Just glance at it. I will explain each and every aspect of the syllabus in a flow. If you go through the syllabus in this manner, it is unstructured. It is difficult for you to remember. I will make sure that all the topics are explained in a flow, logical way, in a sequential manner. Before I get into the syllabus, you have to understand some of the most important, commonly appearing topics, ideas which have been reverberating throughout the syllabus. They are polity, government, constitution, governance, good governance, civil service, public service. Here, I'll be explaining the crux of the thing in a very simple way so that you don't have confusion. These are the terms which have often been confused by the students. There have been thousands of definitions, and students often get confused with these things. Many students often confuse government with polity, governance with government, civil service with public service. There have been and there has some commonality between these terms, and they are, but at the same time they are not same. Let's begin with the term polity or the concept polity. What do you understand by polity? The most accepted and simple definition of polity is polity refers to the system of government. Polity refers to the system of government. Then it may appear to you, then you may ask me a question, what is the system of government we have? Let me ask the same question to you. What is the system of government we have in India? There are many systems of government. There may be a communistic government, as in case of China or the former USSR. There may be monarchic, rule by a ruler, king, monarchic form of government, as in Saudi Arabia, like previously our neighbor Nepal. We are having a democratic form of government. Throughout the world, democratic form of government has become a norm. Most of the countries are following democratic form of the government, or even the communistic, even the monarchic governments are tending towards democratic form of government. So we have a system of government which is democratic. What is democracy then? Democracy, when you think about democracy, it all revolves around the people. It is people's rule. In democracy, peoples are the ruler. This is not often found in the modern democracy. This form of democracy, that is direct democracy, is found only in the lower ranks. In the local self-government, it is present. It is present in India and in only one instance, that is Gram Sabha. Gram Sabha, this question has been asked in UPSC prelims. Gram Sabha is the only place where you find direct democracy in India. The other thing is indirect democracy or the representative democracy, where people elect a representative to make the laws on their behalf. Due to the complexities which have grown over a period of time, all the people cannot be involved in policy making. All the people are not able to make the decisions. So people elect their representatives, and these representatives on behalf of the people make the laws, make the policies. Then in representative form of government, what exactly is this political system? We'll see like how the political system has evolved in brief, in a very brief, so that it makes sense for you to understand. Band, tribe, chiefdom, nation state. This is the evolution of the political system. This is the evolution of the governance. This is the evolution of the government over a period of time. Band. Band refers to the most simple, most primitive, the earliest form of the political system, which consisted of only 30 to 100 people, where all are equal. It is an egalitarian society. There is no leadership. There is nothing like leadership. Here the leadership is situational. Mean to say that, say for example, suddenly there is a task of hunting. A person who is proficient in hunting will come up and he will take the leadership. As soon as that is over, the leadership exists. The leadership place is vacant. Once again, everybody is equal. Say, for example, there is a religious ceremony. Then a person who is well versed with invoking gods will come and he will perform those ceremonies. So, leadership is situational, egalitarian in case of band. Next, it has evolved into tribe. There is a gradual increase in the number, complexity of tribe. compared to band. In case of tribe, you have got links. You have got links based on marriage and blood. So political system in tribe is nothing but the political system of band, but you have got a political system which is based on marital marriage relations and also with respect to blood relations. And it is little complex and broader thing. Next, it has evolved into chiefdoms. Chiefdoms, which you often see in most of the movies or any tribal organization or in any African states, where chief is the head. It is a rudimentary form of the modern nation state what we have, where all the resources are pooled, are under the control of the chief, who will redistribute when the occasion comes. This chiefdom has evolved into nation state, which is nothing but the a political entity or political system having a definite geographical area or boundary and which is sovereign. So as of now, government consists of legislature, executive, and judiciary. So I reiterate, very important thing already asked once in UPSC prelims, government consists of not only the executive, it consists of legislature, executive, and judiciary also. Let me make the concept of legislature and executive clear here because this has been often confused. Legislature means the MLAs and MPs whom you are electing. Central legislature is called parliament. Union legislature is called parliament. So legislature consists of elected members who make policies, who make laws, who make acts. I repeat it, very important thing. The things, the work done by legislature are called as laws, acts. And executive is a person who execute the laws made by the legislature. Executive is the person who execute the laws, the policies made by the legislature. Very simple, very important thing which you have to remember here is executive means only ministers. Chief minister, prime minister, and the council of ministers are called the executive. Very easy to remember, simple way. Executive means minister. If he is a minister, he is an executive. He may be a MLA, he may be a MP from the ruling party, but if he is not the minister, he is not the executive. Say, for example, I am a MP from the ruling party, that is BJP, but I am not a minister. Then I am not the executive. I will be executive only if I am a minister. And as you know, judiciary is one which resolves the disputes, which interprets the laws, which interprets the constitution. It is a grievance redressal mechanism at large. So this is a brief. We'll go in depth like nature, form, all these things. With this background, let us understand representative and parliamentary form of government. Parliamentary form of government. In parliamentary form of government, what we have? Executive is part of legislature. Means to say that all the executives, that is all the ministers, are part of legislature. Means to be an executive, you have to be a legislature. Defense minister, he has to be a part of a legislature, then only he will become executive. Please understand this Venn diagram. It's very simple and meaningful. In parliamentary form of government, executive is always part of legislature. Next, in presidential form, legislature and executive are different. The example is USA, where executive, the Trump, is not the part of legislature, is not the part of Congress, or is not the part of the Senate. Here, executive and legislature are separate. But in case of parliamentary form, there is a overlapping. Here, executive is responsible to legislature. Executive is answerable to legislature. Say, for example, there is a bill moved. Say, for example, the recent Jammu Kashmir Reorganization Bill, Citizenship Amendment Bill. There, the executive has moved the bill in the legislature. Is responsible because he is responsible to the legislature. But in case of presidential form, the executive and legislature are independent, separate. So Trump has his own secretaries who are like comparable to our ministers. So he has his own setup and he will be ruling through his secretaries. I think this is clear for you. Next topic for you is constitution. What is constitution, which we often hear? We often hear like many politicians, our OICs have will be saying, it is not there in constitution, so I won't follow. It is not there in constitution, it is not written in constitution. Why are we all referring to constitution often? Why we not even refer to rules, regulation? We always refer to constitution. Constitution is the only sacred book for the whole country. Constitution is a sacred book, is a law book. What is constitution exactly? Constitution is a supreme law. A constitution is fundamental law. Constitution is basic law. Constitution is mother law. Constitution is the law of the land. These are the terms which are self-explanatory. Supreme law means constitution is also a law, but it is supreme. Means no other law is above this one. Constitution is the fundamental, basic. Constitution is the mother law. Mother gives birth to children. In the same way, this law gives rise to many other laws. Law of the land, the way in which the government is ruled, everything depends on the constitution. Then you may ask the question, why constitution is called the basic law or foundation law? The thing, exact definition and exact reason for this is constitutions defines the basic structure of the political system. Dear students, please interlink the concepts. Polity is system of government. Government is political system. Constitution defines the political system, the structure, the basic things, how it has to work. So, since constitution defines the basic structure of the political system what we have is like legislature, executive, judiciary, how they have to act, how they have to work together, all what are their powers, all these things are defined by the constitution. So this makes the thing still clear. Constitution is all embracing. All the laws you have made should be within the framework of the constitution. All the rules which are made should be within the framework of law and also constitution. Very important point, my dear students. Constitution, who has made the constitution? Constitution is made by the people. Constitution is written by the people, made by the people. Since they cannot go into each and every detail, they have given their representatives to make laws. Laws are made by the representative, that is legislature. Very important. Constitution by people, laws by legislature. Rules and regulations. is made by the executive, who execute the laws and also the constitution. I'll give an example. Say for example, we have got constitution where we have got more than 460 articles. Under that, many laws have been made. Point in context, in this scenario, Disaster Management Act. Disaster Management Act is made. So this is made by the parliament, the legislature. Under this, rules and regulations are made. So in a broad disaster management law, rules and regulations are made by the executive to implement the law. But these rules and regulations has to be within the framework of law and also within the framework of the constitution. So very important point, rules and regulations are made by executive, laws are made by the legislature, and the constitution is by people. So please internalize these things. Say for example, I took the example of Disaster Management Act. So in this act, rules and regulations say, for example, it is mandatory to wear mask. Is a rule. It is made by the executive, but it is within the Disaster Management Act, and it is not violating the constitution at the same time. Next, constitution also defines the ideals and aspirations of the people. Ideals and aspirations of the nation as a whole, political system as a whole. What are the ideals of our nation? What are the aspirations of our nation, our government, our political entity, political system? The ideals of the country are sovereignty, secularism, democracy, and republic, socialist. These are the ideals. What are the aspirations? Liberty, liberty, fraternity, justice. These are the aspirations. Liberty of thought, expression, belief, faith, justice, political, economical, social. These are our aspirations. So, not only the ideals, it also aspires. It also tells what are the things which on which we have to aspire, we have to achieve. Then next topic for you is next, governance. What do you understand by governance? Is governance and government same? This is one of the most commonly confused topic in polity. Most commonly confused. And even after writing mains, many of the students are not clear about this concept. What is governance? What is the difference between government? So I think by this time you should have clarity of what is polity, what is government, what is constitution. They are all interrelated. Then what is governance? Is governance and government same? No. Government is part of governance. Governance is a broader thing. In that, government is a subset, a part of governance. Governance, according to our 5-year plan, governance encompasses mechanisms, processes, and situations which lead to the welfare and empowerment of the people. So here, students, please internalize welfare and empowerment of the people. Welfare and empowerment of the people, whatever may be the things which encompasses mechanisms, processes, situations, systems, institutions, bodies, anything which leads to welfare of the people and empowerment of the people is governance. Please internalize this one. This clarity you won't get anywhere. Anything which leads to welfare of the people and empowerment of the people is known as governance. So what does governance encompasses? Governance encompasses government. and also civil society, media, international organizations, anything. You take anything, the ways, the processes, the laws, bylaws, everything. Civil society, non-governmental organization, charity organizations, anything which leads to the welfare and empowerment of the people is known as government. Is this clear? Very important. Please internalize this. N- The definitions, there are like more than like 100 definitions of governance, but the crux, the gist is governance refers to anything which leads to the welfare of the people and empowerment of the people. So here is the main difference. Government is a structure consisting of legislature, executive, judiciary. But governance is a process, it is a network, it is an interconnection. So governance is a process, it is a network which connects the people, citizens, civil society, the legislature, executive, international organization, international bodies, NGOs, whatever may be the thing. Whatever leads to the welfare of the people is known as governance. Next, what is good governance? It is a burst term which you often have been hearing. Good governance. Good governance is a very recent term in polity. Almost some 30 years back, there was no one used the term good governance. It was for the first time used by World Bank in 1990s, early 1990s, in some of its reports. So, what is good governance? So, we know the meaning of governance. Governance means which leads to empowerment and welfare of the people. When the governance is good, then it is good governance. Means good governance includes all the processes, all the mechanisms, everything which leads to the welfare and empowerment of the people. Means to say that if there is rule of law, if there is transparency, if there is accountability in the governance, if there is right to information, if there is citizen charter, if all these things are present, then their government will be very good. So these are the things which leads to good governance. So please internalize the things, the processes, the systems. You take anything, you add anything, you write anything, which makes the governance good is known as good governance. So there are many definitions by World Bank, United Nations, by UNESCO. Many, like Planning Commission has also come up with its own definitions previously. So good governance is a very recent idea, which is the extension of governance. So it includes those processes, say, for example, according to World Bank, political stability, government efficiency, accountability, civil liberties, rule of law, independence of judiciary, control of corruption. All these things are aspects of good governance. In the same way, UNESCO has its own, United Nations has come up with its own list, but they're all mean the same. Means they make the governance good, the things which make the governance. So it is very difficult for you to remember all these things. Say for example, UNESCO has given 8 things like that. So you can write all the things, you can add all those things which make the government good: stability, rule of law, liberty, accountability, all these things. Next, what does governance exactly mean in the recent times? Now the buzzword is minimum government and maximum governance. Minimum government and maximum governance. What is this? Government as an instrument, as a structure. We have tried to maximize the welfare and empowerment of the people, but it is not working. So, the new thought, to be specific, new public administration says that enough of government. We don't want more government. We want more governance. So there is rollback of the state. There is rollback of government. So we want minimal government, but maximum government. maximum interlinking, maximum processes which leads to the empowerment and welfare of the people. So now government is rolling back. The interference of the executive, legislature, judiciary are made the minimum. So now what we have is minimum government, maximum governance. It is often says that governance is the instrument for the welfare of the people. It is not working. So it is a time to reduce its role. So governance is a important term which has been used in the political science in the very often because it encompasses everything: your polity, constitution, government, governance. You take every, because in democracy people are the king. Anything for the welfare and empowerment of the people is in governance. So the now the present paradigm, what does good governance means minimal government and maximum governance. Now we'll discuss about the civil services and public services. What is the difference between civil service and public service? You students are preparing for civil services, isn't it? What is the difference? Is civil service and public service same? Can they be used interchangeably? Are they entirely different? What is your thought? What is your idea? Can we call a teacher as a civil servant? Can we call a doctor as a civil servant? Can we call a group C, group D workers as civil servant? Can we call a nurse as a public servant? What is the difference? So please concentrate. Public service and civil service have many things in common. At the same time, they are not same. They have many things in common, but they are not the same. But like we'll go on so that you will understand the things better. Both public service and civil service have some things in common in that both are paid by public purse. Means the tax which you pay, from that they have been paid, the salary has been paid, will be paid from the taxes we pay from the public purse. Both are servants of government, both are servants of people. This is the commonality. Then what is the different? What is exactly civil service? What exactly is public service? Civil service does not include military and judiciary services. Civil services are the posts and services which are in civil capacity, not in military or judicial capacity. So civil service won't include military service and also judicial service. Civil service, civil servants are engaged in administration and management. As you know, administration and management normally will be there in a higher echelon, not at the base. So these are some of the important characteristics of civil service. We'll be discussing all the things what I have discussed in detail when we go each topic in our regular class. This is the just so that it is easy for you to understand the syllabus. Next, this is the thing. So all the civil servants are public servants, but all the public servants are not civil servants. Mean to say, those people who are paid by the public purse, who are government servants, who are not in military, who are not in judiciary, who are in administration and who are in management, they are civil servants. Your nurse, your teacher, your group D, group C officers, they are public servants. A doctor, maybe a nurse, maybe a clerk, they are all public servants. They are not civil servants. So generally, group services are called as civil services. In some cases, even some of the group 2 executive post, executive group 2 executive post and group 1 post are referred to as civil service. Civil services are a higher in the pedestrian of public services. So I think by this Venn diagram you can understand the things. So all civil servants are public servants, but all public servants are not civil servants. Next, this shows like the lower rung, your doctors, your nurses, who are not in administration, the clerk, they're all public servants. But civil services refers to those who are there in decision making, administration, and management. I think the concept of civil service and public service is clear for you. At this point of time, I want to make one thing clear. The second Administrative Reform Commission has often used public service and civil service interchangeably. These are the things, there is a difference. But while writing the answers, you can write them interchangeably to a greater extent because Administrative Commission, Reform Commission is the apex of recommendations. So when it has not made any distinction, there is no need for you also to make a clear distinction often. Not only second ARC, even the UPSC also has not made a clear demarcation between public servants and civil servants. So whenever you get a question like, what are the things with respect to public service or civil service, you can add up the things and you can write. So hope these things are clear to you. So in our next session, we'll be dealing the syllabus in detail. The above one in green is the prelim syllabus, and in red it is the main syllabus. I will be interconnecting each and every aspect. If you go through the syllabus as given in the UPSC, you will be confused. I'll make sure that each and every topic in the syllabus is interconnected. It goes in a way, it goes in a flow so that you will understand. So by explaining you what exactly polity, governance, constitution, political system, panchayat raj, I will make you to understand under which part they come there, how they are interconnected, so that you can remember and you can internalize the things in a more easy way and more appropriate way. So once again, I would like to inform you this is a awesome offer. Please don't let it go. First time in India, a highest quality is provided at the lowest price. The seats are fast filling. My dear students, please enroll as early as possible. This offer is only for first 50 students. Okay, till our next, keep reading, enjoy reading. You have got presidential form of government and parliamentary form of government. Presidential form of government, the classical example is USA, and